Welcome back to Still My Real episode 2. If you haven't seen episode 1, I really do recommend going and checking it out as it builds on some of those fundamental steps. We covered duplicators last episode and built this transition right here. Today, we're going to step it up a notch. So if you haven't already, go download my project file below. It's free. Otherwise, feel free to build along as we're going to be creating from scratch. This little cursor right here is one of my favorites from the whole piece. And the secret behind it is components. Components are how Cavalry lets you take a complex rig, a bunch of layers, deformers, animations, and wrap it up into one clean, controllable thing. Build the system once, control it with your own custom UI, and reuse it across multiple projects or scenes. So let's build it. Before we dive in, I think it's really important to note that Cavalry has a few different reusable systems and interfaces that get confused quite a lot. Quick rundown. We have pre-comp overrides, which are the true master instance system. Edit the master and all the systems update. It's really similar to maybe how Figma acts with components or even After Effects. These pre-comp overrides can also be used as reference files, which we'll cover in a later video, but really takes that to the next level. Components encapsulate a complex rig with custom UI, what we're building today. And a control center is a dashboard for your scene's most used controls from any layer or any aspect of that scene. Each one has its own place, but today let's just focus on components, keep it nice and simple with a clean rig system. We'll cover pre-comps and all of that other jazz in a future episode, so make sure you subscribe so you don't miss out. So, what's a component really? It has its own controls which you expose outside called promoted attributes, and it hides all the messy internals, so us as the user or anyone that you pass it on to doesn't get confused. And so it has really clean UI, and you can drive those controls without ever having to open the component again. It's all at the top layer, which leaves it nice and clean for us. Okay, so I just opened up the Showreel file. When you come into the working file, you'll only be able to see these attributes. As I was saying before in my intro, there's a whole lot of other stuff going underneath this you can't see. And this is because when I right click and come up to component, edit component, that was turned off. When I turn it on, it shows me everything that is going on under the hood, and there's a lot. So with any animation that maybe you're trying to recreate or inspiration, the best thing to do is just to break it down step by step. There's no point in getting too overwhelmed. It's just piecing it out in those little bits that you can understand and then building on top of those. So let me show you what I mean. The first thing that stands out to me is that there is a name on the cursor with a shape around it. So with that in mind, I know that I can chuck down a text shape by just coming here and going option and click. What that does is it just places the text shape right in the center of the scene for me. Change this to my name, update the font. Really fantastic thing about Cavalry, which I love, you can easily add backgrounds to text. It's inbuilt into the program. So when you're using After Effects or something like that, it's really difficult to add the shapes behind text that automatically respond to what the text is typed out to be. But in Cavalry, it's really easy. I just click on background in my text shape and I can just click the plus button here to create a background behind that text. What that does is it places the text into a group, and then there is a custom shape underneath that, which is creating that background shape. And what's awesome is when I type or remove text, it is perfectly dynamic to whatever I'm inputting into that text shape. And I can customize this further. Right now it's set to line. I could change this to paragraph, character. I could select specific indices. 0, it's just going to focus on the J, or yeah, I can cycle between. But in this instance, I don't want to do that. I'm going to go back to line. I'm going to start adjusting the padding. So I can change the width here. I can adjust the ascender adjustment, and I can also round out the shape as well. And so that's a good base. Next up, I need the pointer. Polygon tool. I'm going to option click that again and give that 3 sides. I'll connect the width to the height so I can scale that down evenly. use a duplicator. Come up to the shelf here with my pointer selected and click create duplicator. It just puts it in a simple grid 3x3. I'm going to change this distribution. So if I click this drop down, again, I have a whole lot of options. I'm going to choose path. I'm going to then plug in this background as the input shape. Ooh, we have liftoff. So now I have the pointer being distributed around that path shape, but I want to control this a little further. I'm going to turn the countdown to 1 because I don't need that many. Rotate the shape. So I want to flip it by 180. And as you can see, I already have something going on here. I'm also just going to offset this. If I put this as a negative value, it starts pushing it out. Negative 35. And now as it travels around, I have some padding on that. Pretty cool. And what's really awesome about this is now if I update this text, that cursor little pointer maintains its way around the shape, no matter how big it may be. Okay, that's not exactly how I want it. Let me change this. Document. Document is the right one. I don't want that many. So if I was to have multiple lines of text, the pointer will only be duplicated once and goes all the way around. How cool is that? But as you can see already, duplicators are really powerful. There's a whole bunch of distribution methods, but this path one works perfectly with what we're trying to achieve here. Do a little bit of cleanup, name this pointer duplicator, and then I'm going to grab this pointer and stack it underneath, just so it's a little bit tidier. Jack group can stay the same. I'm going to undo all this text. There we go. In this scene, you can see that I have this little tail following it around, and it's pretty cool in the way that it moves. It's almost water. I love that staggered effect. We're actually using another duplicator. Let's go back into my cursor composition and break it down again. Simple steps. So for that tail shape, it's going to be an ellipse. So I'm going to option click on my ellipse tool and then sort of create this shape. That's the right aspect ratio that I want. I'm just going to make it a bit smaller. I'm going to do the same thing where I plug it onto a duplicator and stack that underneath. I'll call this my tail shape. Tail duplicator. I will then again use my path and plug in background shape as the input shape for that. You can see again, I've got 3 of these. Let's limit it down to 1. I'm going to use the same offset as the cursor. So I'm going to grab this offset. You can see again, if I hover my mouse over this circle, it creates a blue little dot, which means that I can create a connection. Grab that, plug it into my tail duplicator. I release there, find the offset, which is path offset. So whatever I create on this pointer duplicator, it will match. Create some good consistency. This is my source of truth. I want to adjust the rotation of that tail. So if I go to shape rotation on the duplicator and adjust it to about 90 degrees, looks good. And then as I travel that around, nice, it's doing the same sort of thing. Now for this travel though, using that same kind of logic as before, I want my pointer duplicator to be my source of truth. So if I grab this travel, right now it's at 47%. So if I grab that and plug it into the tail and go to my path travel, putting it in the exact same spot. So if I come into the travel on that tail duplicator, right click it, I can add an expression. So on top of this input that is coming from the pointer duplicator, by adding an expression, I can override this a little bit. It's still taking that value from elsewhere, but it's letting me add some maths on top. I can say value, which is the value coming from the pointer duplicator, minus 450. This number will be a little bit different each time depending on, let's say, the length of this text. Now, as I update this pointer duplicator and its travel, it is doing the opposite of what pointer is doing. And I think that looks pretty neat. My tail in my showreel has about there's a 3. I don't know what you want to call it. So 3 segments on the tail. You guessed it. Grab this tail duplicator and then plug it into another duplicator. Again, it puts it into a grid, but I'll stack this underneath and name this tail duplicator. I'm going to call it point. This one, I'll call it path, just so I know the difference between the two. Distribution from grid to point. Right now you can't see anything, but there is a count of 3 here. So if I come to my shape time offset, similar to last week, what I can do is go to behavior and add a stagger. And this stagger is -8. It's hard to see right now, but if I start moving, so by adding some keyframes, you can kind of see that like offset occurring. It's not very interesting when it's linear, is it? But if I start adding a curve to my path and then using easy to add some easing, I want to have some variation in the scale of these little tail segment bits. I'm going to go into my duplicator again on the tail, go 1 step lower and go into the tail duplicator here. Right click on here and apply it to the X. I'm going to stack this underneath so I understand that that is where it's occurring. There we go, that looks a little bit better. I'm going to just play with the minimum and maximum values. So my minimum, let's say 0.6, and the maximum will be 1. I'm going to adjust this a little bit further. It's like setting the range. So the smallest shape is 0.4, and then the maximum is a scale of 1. So there you go, that's a basic cursor already there. I'm backtracking down a little bit. What's happening is this background custom shape is being defined by this text. And when I animate the text position, it follows. And then the rest of these duplicators sort of hooked up to that as well. So this is the base. This is me going down the stack to see where this is all being connected from. And so right now I know that the text is driving that. And the easiest way for me to get to that point is actually by coming into the position on the jack text, right clicking it, and I'm going to control this with a null. And that null is going to be my handy little helper when I'm animating the rest of this. I'm also just going to change the alignment on this. So I'm going to have it center aligned and align in the middle for the vertical alignment, which lets me place that null in a bit of a better position for my animation. This is going to control my movement of my cursor, so I'm going to say cursor control. Doesn't look very pretty, so we can start adjusting colors, steal my real color palette, add in a different background on that, do a light blue on the text, change the color of this tail shape. I'll use the same purple, the pointer color, the blue. Wowie. Now I can sort of add some more effects to it. And what I really like to do, add a Voxelize and a Bevel to things to sort of give it a pixelated effect. Come to the custom shape of the background, and if I go to my deformers, Voxelize deformer at the bottom, convert shapes into voxels, and you can control the size and scale to create gaps. It sort of does this like pixelated kind of look. And so as you can see, when I select this background shape, split it up into a mosaic pixel grid, and I can increase or decrease it to a certain amount. I get like a cool custom shape there. I can then add another deformer, and this is really important that I add this, flatten shape layers. Now, as you can see, when I've applied that, it's removed all those little lines and grids, and it's like flattened the whole shape into one shape. But first off, I'm going to apply a bevel, and a bevel just rounds things off. There we go. Pretty good. Increase and decreases. But if I didn't have this on, you can see that it's just like all these circles. Not ideal. Hence why flatten shape, really good for this. Ooh, now these are looking a little bit funny. Now that there's all these ridges that it's trying to like travel around, it doesn't create a very smooth shape. So what I need to do is, this is great as a visual on top, but I need a separate background shape. Keep this one, delete actually all of this. I'm going to use this as my pretend little base shape that it's rotating around, because if I use the one with all these effects, it gets all bumpy and it does weird things. I'll name this base rotation, shape. Sounds good to me. Turn that off. Still functioning underneath, you just can't see it. And this one is base visual, the one that looks really pretty. That way we don't get any janky, nasty business going on. I can apply the same visual effect to my pointer. Seeing as I already have this set up, I may as well just reuse this Voxelize, Flatten, and Bevel. So let's just do that. Plug that into the deformer here, flatten it, apply the bevel. Let's scale this up a little bit. How cool is that? As I scale it, you can see that dynamically adjusting. I like that kind of shape. That looks cool. And we reuse this for the tail. So all I need to do again is grab this blue dot, connect it to make sure I do it in the right layer order. First is the Voxelize, next is the Flatten, and then Bevel. Haha. And I can then adjust this. I don't think I love that. So I can easily just manipulate these values. Oh, that's cool. Yeah, how easy is that to get all these different sort of vibes? Here comes the magic. I'm going to go command period or command full stop and type in component. Collects layers in a folder to organize them and or create a common transform. Just grab all of these, click and drag, it'll put it under the stack. And as you can see in the UI here, I can start customizing these controls. I know that this cursor control is going to be a main control in this component. So I'm going to pin this, come to my cursor control, grab this position, plug it in to here. Now I've got it in this component. I can also rename it. So I can right click, go rename, cursor control. You can see it's in italics now, letting me know that I've given it a custom name. What else would I like to control in this? The rotation. So that's controlled with this travel. So I'm going to grab that, plug it into my component, rename this from travel to cursor rotation, overall rotation of the cursor. I'm going to grab this jack text, and because this kind of is the main level, what is affecting everything else in this scene, if I rotate this, it rotates. Woo! So I'll grab this blue dot from the rotation and then drag it in as a control, cursor rotation. Also, what's really cool in these components is I can hover my mouse over this and just like click and drag, and you can just like reorder them. All of this is so ugly. I don't want to be looking at that all the time. So what I can do is right click on this component, go down to component, edit component, click, turn that off, and there we go. Completely cleaned up. I don't have to see any of that nasty controls from underneath anymore. Much easier to do things than before. And I can take this another step further as well if I want to edit this component again. If I ever want to change the color, anything can be dragged as an attribute connection here. This is just a rule that I'm making up for myself. I always want my base to be the same color as the tail shape, so I can plug that into the fill color of the tail shape. And then this base color, I can drag in as a connection here too. So now I can control it from the top. The pointer, control that from the top as well. Grab that color, plug it in here, pointer color. So yeah, as I go, I can continue to add whatever I like to this component on the side here. And I can easily change these controls and colors whenever I want to. Why is that not working? Sometimes like flatten shape, when you change a color on something, it doesn't seem to always respond straight away. So to make it respond, I toggle with single path to single layer and then back again. And there you go. It's updated correctly. Just a funny quality of life thing that we love. The string for this name, I can add that as well. Why not? Hi, YouTube. Woohoo! This is just the beginning of what components can do. As you can see here with like my little cursor rig, this is something that I made up. It's probably using the same component for the cursor. I'm just able to like feed that into like a dynamic fun little animation and build on top of it. So yeah, let me know what you guys end up making. I would love to see all controlled through simple inputs and a clean interface. Can be applied to lower thirds, titles, whole bunch of motion things. Components are great. I love them, use them all the time, and so should you. So there you go. Now you've got a clean, animatable, motionable Is that even a word? You've got a rig. It's that easy. I use these all the time. Components are awesome. Something really complex and I just want to like shrink it down to the basic level of what I want to control and animate. I've got it right there. So that's how you scale up your work without losing your mind in the layer stack. And trust me, you will. If you're not using components, you're about to get real confused. So that's episode 2. Stacked it all on top of our duplicated knowledge from episode 1. Next time, we're going to start diving into text animation, where we're going to get into sub-meshes, per character control, and more stylized segments. It's where Cavalry really starts to feel like magic. And if you want the cursor file, it's free to download below along with the whole scene from the intro of my showreel, link in the description, and feel free to buy me a coffee if you're feeling generous. Subscribe to keep learning Cavalry with me, and if you've made it this far, thank you so much. I can't wait to see you guys in the next one. Bye!